Alright, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome to your Enhancement Talent review for WWE Monday Night Raw October 7th, 2019. This show closed with an angle between Braun Strowman and Tyson Fury, and not a lot else happened. So, we might as well get to that now, and then we can try to just speed through every other inconsequential thing that happened throughout this show. But starting with the main event, and it was the main event of this show, was Tyson Fury coming out to demand an apology from Braun Strowman. Jerry the King Lawler was the interviewer for whatever reason. So Fury comes out. He's going to be asking Braun for an apology. Jerry's in the ring interviewing him. Braun's music hits. He interrupts. They talk back and forth for a minute when Fury says that he makes fun of Braun because he's never won a world title, unlike Fury, who is a world champion. But where's Braun's world title? So, at that point, Braun said enough's enough and went into fight with Fury. They're split up by security. Then afterwards, the locker room empties. They break free multiple times, but nothing big happens. In fact, this really looked kind of shitty, if we're being honest. Then, like, with a minute left, Braun goes to the back, and he's being interviewed by Charlie Caruso. And he says that he's not going to apologize. And then he runs back out, and then they have another break apart brawl. So, Mike Tyson and Stone Cold Steve Austin, this was not. In fact, this wasn't even Big Show and Floyd Mayweather. And really, like, if you really wanted to get me hooked on this storyline, I would have just copy and pasted exactly what they did with Mayweather and Big Show. Probably 12 years ago at this point. 11 or 12 years. I think it was WrestleMania 24 that one was. But the first night out when Big Show and Mayweather were in the ring together. And I don't know if you could really do this with Fury and Strowman. But first night out, Big Show, because, and the other thing is with Big Show and Mayweather, Big Show is so much larger than Mayweather, where, as in this case, they're kind of on the same playing field. But in this case, Big Show, and he's talked about it in interviews before, that the feeling was that the first night out, they needed to make Mayweather look as good as he possibly could. Like, he could kick Big Show's ass, even though he is significantly smaller than him. So Big Show gets down on his knees and tells Mayweather he can have a free shot. And we all know the story. Mayweather gets a couple quick shots in, breaks Big Show's nose like it was nothing. And that was what they wanted to do. Big Show told him, break my nose. And he trusted Mayweather to be able to do that without, permanently disfiguring him. And it worked. There was a good amount of blood. There was no irreparable damage to Big Show. So, because, Mayweather, he's a professional. So I don't know if they could have done something similar to that. I'm not suggesting that they break Braun Strowman's nose. But Fury didn't get shit in on Strowman. Like, none of his punches landed. And everything was just a clustermuck. So I wish there was something more enticing. Something like one big strike. But it didn't really get to that level. It was just a lot of pushing and shoving and not much else. So as far as this match, It definitely seems like this is going to be a Saudi Arabia deal, the Crown Jewel show at the end of the month, as is supposedly Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar. So, rather than going for guys like Goldberg and Undertaker, it seems like this time, for these Saudi Arabia shows, they're going to try to find big-name guys outside of WWE. In this case, with Cain Velasquez and Tyson Fury. So, that's interesting, I guess. This match is going to be more of a spectacle than anything, if it does happen. And it could be a train wreck. It 100% could be a train wreck. I don't know if it will be, but being that Tyson Fury is not a wrestler, unlike Cain Velasquez, who actually has wrestled a few matches now, but Tyson Fury is not a wrestler. Braun Strowman is not exactly the best worker on the roster. So when you put those two elements together, I don't know, it could result in a train wreck, but both of them also have enough personality and charisma that it could be a home run. That they could be able to put something together that, it's not based around mat wrestling or anything like that. That it's just based around, being a spectacle. So they could certainly do that, and they could definitely succeed at that, I think, if the chips fall in place. But yeah, that's about all I got to say on this. We'll get into the full review now. Right after I scroll all the way back up in my notes. So, with this show being sandwiched in between the quote-unquote premiere week last week, where we had the season premiere of Raw, the NXT versus AEW on Wednesday, and then the debut of SmackDown on Fox on Friday, and then Hell in a Cell on Sunday, and then this show being between all of that and the draft coming up on Friday, I very much expected this to be a filler show. And I was not disappointed, because I knew what to expect. With the draft being this Friday, it definitely seemed like this was going to be a filler show. And they tried to make it a bigger deal than it was with the whole draft showcase. But it didn't really do a whole lot. We'll get into some of those matches. But, yeah, I didn't really expect much from this show. And especially following last night at Hell in a Cell, I'm not really expecting much of anything from WWE anymore. Because if I expect anything, they'll just screw it up. So we started off with this big, extravagant video package of the whole thing that happened last week. Bobby Lashley, Rusev, and Lana, that whole deal. We all know the deal. I talked about it last week on the show. But how crazy is it that the last week that WWE has been ridiculous? Like, you start with that Monday, you got that Bobby Lashley and Lana, that mess. And then on Friday, Brock Lesnar beats Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship in 11 seconds. And then on Sunday, they killed The Fiend. Like, what a week, man. They did that all in 7 days. Incredible. But anyway, they start off with that big video package. And notice how it's the night after the pay-per-view. And instead of opening talking about the main event of that pay-per-view, we're talking about the ridiculous storyline that started last week on Raw, which had no bearing on the pay-per-view, by the way. And I know it doesn't matter much now because everybody knows what happened, but I remember a time where if you couldn't watch the pay-per-view, you would have to tune into Raw for them to tell you what happened at the pay-per-view. So as soon as this video package is over, it goes to the ring, and Rusev is already being beaten up by Randy Orton and Baron Corbin. He ends up fending them off, but that's when Bobby Lashley shows up on the Titantron. He's wearing a robe. He's in a bedroom, which he informs us is Rusev's robe in Rusev's house in Rusev's bedroom. And then Lana comes in. They share a bed together. And they have implied sex. This was pretty gross. Honestly. I've been through the Vicky Guerrero and Edge storyline. I don't think it's gotten that far yet. We haven't gotten to the Lita and Edge. I guess it always involves Edge with these things. Nothing like that. But I just don't feel like this is working. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with all this, but it all just seems like too much drama, sort of TV series sort of stuff. So, I'm not a fan. But what changed from last week is that this time, instead of just standing there, Rusev actually gets pissed off and starts beating up Corbin and Orton, pillar to post, as Corbin and Orton were laughing their asses off the whole time that this thing was playing. So Rusev throws them all around, throws them into the barricade, into the post, over the barricade, Machka kicks, just beats them to shreds. And that was the last of any of this that we saw as far as this storyline. So, is the goal for WWE to make Rusev a bigger babyface out of this? Probably not. It might be an alternative effect, but I don't think that's their goal. I don't think that that's what they're trying to do. I still believe that they're just trying to fuck with Rusev and Lana as they're on the way out. After this, we got Lacey Evans versus Natalya in a last viewer left not sleeping match, otherwise known as a last woman standing match. This is the 5th match between these two in the last month. And after what I thought was a pretty decisive win for Natalya last night at Hell in a Cell, I guess we needed to run it back. Lacey comes out, she cuts a promo comparing Natalya to trash. As you see, she has a trash can with Natalya's name written on it. That trash can should have read Hell in a Cell 2019, and it would have been more accurate. This match wasn't great. I won't say it was bad, but it wasn't great. Natalya got up at a 9 count no less than 27 times. It was every time that she went down, it got up to 9, and then she got up. There was no gradual build to the 9, like there should be in a good last man standing match, I think. Instead, it was just everyone, get up at 9. Get up at 9. Get up at 9. Get up at 9.99999. So, Lacey's trash can actually had trash in it. When she hit Natalya with it, it came all flying out. After that, she hit, quote-unquote, an awful moonsault off the barricade, which Natalya fell down for before Lacey even came close to touching her. Lacey, she hits a suplex onto the announce table, and of course, Natalya gets up at 9. But in fact, Lacey actually lifted Natalya up at 9 when she was on one knee. So, that was kind of stupid on her part. But after that, Natalya ends up getting a powerbomb on Lacey. She throws her off the stage through a table with the powerbomb. And that ends it. Lacey stays down for the count. And essentially, after controlling, like, almost all of this match, Lacey took a move and lost. I just hope I never have to see this match again. If dear God separate these two in the draft, I can't believe that I've seen 5 of these matches. I don't even know what to do with myself. We had an Aleister Black backstage promo. This was comedy. That I don't know when the last time we saw Aleister Black on SmackDown was, but there was just a period of time where all he would do was cut these backstage promos where he would say so many words in his ominous tone, but not really be saying anything with those words at all. And then he would end by saying, "Come knock on my door and pick a fight with me." And so he did that same exact thing. Aleister Three's Company Black is back. Come and knock on our door. Eventually, at least he did realize that, okay, if I want results, I need to just go to the ring. We'll get to that later. We had the Viking Raiders versus Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode. This is one of the bigger matches that the Viking Raiders have been involved in with the tag champs. So, the old adage that we go by now is that the team that beats the tag team champions will get a title shot. And so that is how we build matches now, instead of having a good old number 1 contenders match. But, that's a dated concept, I guess. So getting into this match, Eric of the Viking Raiders kicked out of a sweet spine buster into a zigzag combo, which looked really nice, and it was a really nice near fall. And they're going to end up pinning Ziggler with a Viking experience, the Thor's hammer. And that'll set up a later title match. Like, I like it so much better to have number 1 contenders matches, but this is their formula, and that's what they're going to do. So, I don't know what you really want me to say. We have the Singh brothers who are here. They even got to cut a promo. And they are answering Aleister Black's challenge. They challenge Aleister Black. Aleister comes in, and he wins quite handily. But instead of winning with a black mass, he wins with a dragon sleeper. But not a traditional one. Instead, one of his arms, he pulls it behind his back to lock in the submission, which I don't know how that benefits anyone at all, how that gives him more grip. I would think it would be easier to break the hold doing that, but, what do I know? At least it looks cool, I guess. So, yeah. This was one of those draft showcase sort of things where you just get to talk about Aleister Black and how he's going to get drafted and yada, yada, yada. Jerry Lawler had 5 different predictions for who should be the number 1 draft pick. And Aleister Black was one of those. We had the OC in a 6-man tag against the Lucha House Party. This was surprisingly a fun match. I didn't expect it to be as competitive as it was, but it was pretty fun. Luchas did some good lucha things, as Kalisto would say. There was a cool spot with a triple moonsault off of one turnbuckle, taking out everyone on the outside. But AJ Styles is going to end up pinning Kalisto with a phenomenal forearm. And then afterwards, the OC beat down everyone. And they feed into a Super Styles Clash off the top rope. And you know who did not come out to help the Lucha House Party? Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander, who a couple weeks ago attacked AJ, seemingly continuing their feud. But now I think that's been dropped. And I'd like to hear back from all of these people that were telling me that, oh, they're not burying Cedric. Oh, are you kidding? He was in a title match with AJ Styles. That's an honor and a privilege. That's much better than what he was doing, right? No, he's dead. They killed him. After AJ beat him on multiple times, and then beat him up after each match, and in one of those matches, in the pay-per-view match, he beats him in 5 minutes, and earlier in the match, he lifted him up from a 3 count, only to beat him again later. I don't know how I'm the only one who sees it this way, but Cedric was buried there. And I know that people don't like the overuse of that word, and I get it. It's a strong word. But for those 2 nights, they buried him. And they have chosen not to try to avenge that. They've chosen not to try to fix that. And yeah. So Cedric would be on the show later as part of that pull-apart brawl that I mentioned. And that was about it. So, I don't want to hear about how Cedric wasn't buried. We have Miz TV with Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. There wasn't a ton to this. Becky did, at the very least, mention how, because this was to lead into Becky and Charlotte teaming again against Asuka and Kairi Sane, the new women's tag team champions. So Becky did at least mention how Asuka beat her earlier in the year at the Royal Rumble. So at least there is some continuity there. But that turns into Becky and Charlotte arguing about who is better, like they normally do. Becky says that Charlotte has the title that Becky made famous. Charlotte says that I made you famous. And yeah, that's when Kairi and Asuka interrupt. They come out, they cut a promo, but it's in Japanese. And thankfully there weren't any subtitles. Could you imagine if they put subtitles on a live promo? It seems exactly like the kind of thing that WWE would do, too. To have someone speaking live, but then have subtitles. So, they go on and run in, they brawl, Charlotte and Becky clear the ring, it goes to commercial, we come back with a match. And I was ready to hate this because I was envisioning that somehow Charlotte and Becky were going to win. And I couldn't imagine how bad of an idea that would be after Asuka and Kairi Sane just won the tag team titles. But Asuka is going to pull out the green mist once again as the ref was distracted with Charlotte. And Kairi Sane was locked in the disarmor. In comes Asuka, green mist blinds Becky. Kairi Sane gets a roll-up and pins the Raw Women's Champion there. So, there you go. They keep Asuka and Kairi on the up and up. And I don't think Becky loses a ton by being pinned there, especially in the manner that they did it. However, it did finally dawn on me how Paige has been gone from this whole act with Kairi and Asuka. And I know she had neck surgery a while ago. A couple weeks ago. And she hasn't been a part of it. And during that time, now they're heels. And all I can really say is I don't really feel like she fits in with that group. I mean, I didn't think she fit in to begin with. Like, I've talked about it before, that I think part of the problem with the early stages of that group is that, for one, both of them in height. So it doesn't look like she's the one managing them. It just doesn't work. Like, she looks more physically imposing than both of them, arguably. And I mean just on eye test. So I always felt like that didn't work, and I especially don't really think it works now with them being heels. After this, we got what's going to be the last thing I cover, I guess. What a weird thing to end on. Apollo Crews versus Ricochet is happening because draft. So this was another one of those draft showcases. They interviewed both of these guys beforehand. And my first reaction was, I forgot Apollo Crews was still here. And my second reaction from the Ricochet interview is that, holy God, whoever is writing Ricochet's promos needs to be taken away into a dark room never to be seen from again. If I have to hear this man say that superheroes can be real again, I'm going to projectile vomit. Jesus Christ. So yeah, they had a match. They did some flips, and Ricochet won with a roll-up. It was very short, and not much to talk about. And after that, actually, there is one more thing, because they finally, after this, with there being like 20 minutes left in the show, maybe 15, they finally recapped The Fiend and Seth Rollins match. After ignoring it all night, this was the first time it was mentioned. This was the first time the subject was broached at all. And they showed the video package, it highlighted the whole match that had happened the night before, and that was it. So, my thoughts on that are that they realize they done fucked up. They realize they have pissed off a big portion of their fan base with what they did last night. And so their response to that was to not address it at all. Because they know. They know. Let me just paint a picture for you. If this Raw started with Seth Rollins coming out and having an opening promo and going over the whole match himself, it would have been shit on by the audience. There would have been a riot with how much everyone hated that match. So what they decided to do was just act like it didn't happen all night. And I'm sure the live crowd saw nothing to do... I'm sure this video package did not play for the live crowd. I would guarantee that. Because they know, and they want to ignore it the best they can, that they took away many fans' hope that WWE would not screw up The Fiend. And they did it, and now they're embarrassed by it. I said it on the show last night. WWE made their bed, now they gotta lie in it. They knew the consequences of booking that match and not having The Fiend win. And now they're going to deal with the consequences from that. And they're going to continue to deal with the consequences from that. And yeah, after that is when we got the Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman stuff, which I talked about in the beginning of this show. So that is all we have today. We'll be back Wednesday night for NXT, AEW, everything to do with that. I'll probably live stream after for the AEW show, and then probably on Thursday at some point the NXT show will be out. But thank you all for watching. Have a good night.